is June 3rd, 2024. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Measured Moves, Line in the Sand, and Potential Trend Changes. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or live trading room, everything that's said and done at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars I have, live trading room, or anything else with Viper Trading Systems should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, I don't see any, so let's go ahead and get started. By the way, Reed, I did notice that you called earlier. We were actually on a walk at that time, and then I got back, and I've been even with the programmer some, and we got some things coming up for you that I think you'll like too, but I can get with you in the morning on again. All right, so let me show you something just real quick that's going on. If you're with Apex, you'll notice that their little sale was supposed to go off. Matter of fact, it still shows 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 22 seconds on their website, but that's been extended to June 11th. Okay. Also, what I really like is actually the $85 PA fee has been extended to July 15th. So that, to me, is very fair of Apex, and a lot of people are going to be able to pass that $250,000 account and pay only $16.70 for it, pass it, and get those $250,000 accounts funded. I talked to some people today that got theirs already funded. So those are going to be huge. I mean, you're talking about, $85 lifetime versus $300. Okay. Now let me go over a couple of things just real quick. This is just some housekeeping on Apex only. All right. If you go to their help under apextraderfunding.com, you'll notice some potential program changes that they're having the community vote on. Okay. I'd highly recommend everybody go in here and do this. Scroll down, even watch the videos if you want to, obviously, but you can actually click here to vote, and you go through a survey. Okay. And that survey, actually, what it really boils down to, if you get down to the end of it, let's see, I probably can't go into it because it says I've already taken the survey, so I can't even show you. But if you'll take that, that will make it to where they can make some changes that they want to make. Some of them I do like. One of them was they're going to try to get it to 40% consistency rule instead of 30, 8-day payouts instead of 10. No problem with flipping trades, which I think is a huge deal because we are scalpers. Okay, there's times where you'll see a trade, you got a line in the sand long short drawn, you happen to take a trade, you see it take out that line in the sand long short, you might want to be ready to close that trade out and look for that break and kiss. And they consider that kind of flipping. I don't personally. Now, if you just flip it, reverse it, that's flipping a trade, but just to close out and go the other direction, it, to me, is not. But anyway, they're voting on that type of stuff. So that's just some housekeeping with them. But they did extend that $85 off until July the 15th. $85 full PA funded account lifetime for $85. So if you can pass that by July 15th, you got yourself a nice account that you got a good drawdown, and you can trade up to 20 accounts. Okay, so that's all I've got on that. And whoop, I just killed what I was wanting to show you too. Bear with me a second. Maybe I didn't kill it. No, I just minimized it. All right, let me go back. All right, real quick, we've had a lot of people that for some reason can't really use TeamViewer. TeamViewer's gotten a little bit more, if somebody's not really totally computer savvy, you have a hard time finding where the remote help is and all that type of stuff. So I paid for a license. See, I'm a vendor, so I can't get by with just using their free version. They, when you help 30, 40 people a day, they're not going to let you use their free version. So we bought it. So if you'll click here, if you want AnyDesk, you just simply go to anydesk.com. download their software, give me the ID that they give you, and okay a session, and I can do AnyDesk or TeamViewer. Okay? All right, so that takes care of that. Then other than that, I have updated the scripts as of June 1st. That was Saturday. So if you go to download latest scripts, not the trial scripts. Now keep in mind, I've got all of the modules because I own the company, so I've got all the modules. But if you go to download latest scripts, you'll notice that it's dated June 1st. Okay. Now I highly recommend updating your scripts to this, because we even found that if you put Object Trader in auto mode and you happen to set the line trail stop at like 0, well, if you went into a short trade, line 0 would be obviously not near cost on a short, so therefore it would, it would give you an error on your NinjaTrader. So that's been fixed also. And we've done some other things in here too, which I wrote about right through here. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and go to some charts, because we're here to talk about measured moves and line in the sand trades and potential trend changes. And by the way, just a real quick heads up, the programmer is working on a potential trend trader. He's been in the room literally every day, and he's doing it on his own, so I don't think he charges me for the room, but it gives him ideas. And we talked the other day, and this potential trend change that I see all the time makes a definite nice little trade setup. Okay, but let's talk about measured move for a minute, and let me get it to the screen so you can see it. Okay, so you should be able to see the screen. Now, when I called this trade right here, right before we left on Friday, remember it was in the room just a couple of minutes after 10, and I said there was a phantom trade setting up. Okay, now, and this gave even the programmer a great idea, because we want to keep you in this trade, if at all possible, where you don't have to manage it as much based on what's looking on the left side of the chart and where this is actually going. Okay, and these measured moves, especially with these smaller charts that are continually just making thrust, retrace, and so on, they're great for measured moves. Okay, because just to give you an example, and by the way, we've got a tool now. It's simply a redone Fibonacci extension. Okay, but a measured move, if you think about it on your chart, is just simply like on a long, it's a thrust. Okay, and then when you get the retrace where you can finally tell where they're stopping with a higher low, then you've got your measured move. Okay, but keep in mind they can do a little bit and then go down some more, so your measured move might start here instead. Okay, but once they then start stair-stepping a little bit back up like this over here, then you can tell where that measured move is, and you just simply use your measured move tool and grab it, click it, drop it at the top, and bring your box down. And see, this would be your measured move on that particular move right there. So that will be pretty easy for us to actually put that as a target, and then it will have like more than likely like a fade, because you're not going to hit them to the tick. I've seen measured moves where you get 2 or 3 ticks from it. Well, I'm going to take my coin, because profit's profit. If you don't take coin, you're not going to every day get a trade like happened on oil today. I mean, oil just dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. But how often does that happen? It usually does all this sideways jump first. Okay, so now you can stay in a trade like that because you use lightning. But if you don't want any pullbacks and you hit a figure that you're happy with, take the coin. It's important. Okay, let's see. Diane says, can you explain why it's important to have SIM as the lead account for the clones? Well, basically the best reason for that is, Diane, because a lot of people trade more than one account, and by putting it in SIM, you're actually putting a simulated target and a simulated stop, which is not against the rules with Apex, as long as you're sitting at your computer. Now, they don't want you trading to where you're just walking away from your computer. If they figure that out, they'll cut you off of PAs, period. But the idea of the sim also, Diane, is, there's a lot of orders go in, and a lot of traders know where those levels are because, I'm pretty good at it myself. And, I'm not considered a professional trader as far as that goes. I'm not, CTA, whatever they call that, certified, and I don't care. Okay. But I do know how to draw on charts and call some really good trades. So basically, they know where those areas are that you're getting in and out. And the beauty of the simulated is that they're not seeing it. They're not seeing a bunch of orders. Like, let's say if I have on a really good day 350, 400 people in my room, okay, that means that 350, 400 people aren't firing on Rithmic where somebody's able to actually see. Now, I don't know if Rithmic they can see it like they can on the exchange or not, but I just know that with simulated, it also runs so much more smoothly also. You take too much chance if you put like one account in live Apex, for instance, and 4 accounts in clone. Mainly because, well, for one thing, NinjaTraders even had some issues with that, so that's another reason that we do it with simulated. Can you show the measured move on current CL? I will. Yeah, we'll look at a CL. I've got a YM chart now, but let me show you. When you get into a trade, always look left to trade the right. Okay. Now you can clearly see that you've got a low here and a high here. That's obvious, right? This is a higher low. Now, does this mean that this wouldn't roll over and take this out? No, it does not. But we also teach a first time into Phantom after a trend change, stair-stepping midband, right? About an 85% probability trade. Okay, so what you want to do on your chart is just simply draw your measured move. Okay, now we don't know this is going to be our low at the time, but when I closed the room on Friday, we drew it from here. So our new tool, you just simply take the M, click it, click on your swing, drag it to that high, drop it, and a box draws. Okay, that box just simply then goes down to the bottom of that swing right there. Okay, and then you drop it again, left click. Okay, so if you got in this trade right here, okay, and let's say you got in at 38,223, let's just say for sake of, that would have been a pretty good fill. Okay, so you're actually having targets maybe 12, 20 or whatever. But what I want to do with Object Trader is take it a step further, and that's what programmers are going to be working on this next few days and however long it takes. But I want to actually get this to where it looks at this, this, and this. And that's where I want to take my profit. Maybe fading it a few ticks, something like that. Okay. So then if it gets up there, if I started with like, say, 3 contracts, I could easily take some coin on one of them to protect myself, right? But then look what actually happened on Friday. Okay, you'll see this time and time again. See, that's a higher low again. Higher low again, maybe. Let's see if it is. Higher low so far. Comes down a little bit more. How many of you get out of a trade like this? You've already taken coin on one of them. You're riding a runner, right? So your target is up there. See that? That was called live in the room before it ever got there. Now, if you think about this, if you can get in the habit of getting what's called measured moves on your trades, whether it's a big one like this or a little one, here's another measured move. What if you're a scalper? You say, okay, all I want is this measured move, thrust, retrace, and thrust, and there it is. See what I mean? So you can even get these smaller measured moves too. I mean, did it go up higher? Yes, it did, but it still did a 1, 2, 3 measured move and gave you profit right up there. Okay. This one happened to do the bigger move, thrust, retrace, thrust, and it even took it out a little bit. But look how these actually hold. See how that actually took it out? and then it actually pulls down. That's how great measured moves can be right there. And the easiest way to draw them is just like I showed here. It's the measured move tool that we added. It's simply a Fibonacci extension, but instead of having all those lines show up on your chart, we draw boxes. Okay, let's see. Mindy, on your bid-ask spread at the bottom, what is a good number for trading? You don't want this to go really above the 1 or the 2. 3 goes red. 4 obviously would be red, and I think it may even have purple. I know this one does. See, this one, if it's green, the way the chart lag indicator works on Object Trader is this is like a full second, and this is basically decimals or fractions of the second. So this is 0.107 of a second, and that's 0.028, which is like 28 thousandths of a second. See, so this will turn red if it goes above 300. So in other words, if it's more than 3/10 of a second delay from your computer to the exchange or to the world clock, so to speak, then this will turn red, and it goes purple when it gets really out of kilter. Okay, so that's a new tool that we added. And the bid-ask spread, I watch this quite a bit, because when I see gold, for instance, start going bid-ask like 3, 4, and then go back to green, then back to red, then back to green, it's moving too quick. You don't want to place a market order, because you could get, frankly, 5 or 6 ticks out, because this is going to be tick by tick, but in a split second, you could be 5 ticks out. And that way you're not taking a chance with your hard-earned money, because we fire market orders. We don't look at limits and all that, simply because we want to get in on those bars. Okay. All right. Now, your measured moves will also happen. Let me just show you some right here. See, here's an example, like right here, of a bigger measured move. See, this is your thrust retrace. Did it ever get there? I don't think it did at the time. Now, will it get there later? Yeah. See what I mean? So you can also look at the bigger measured moves, and you'll find them also. And as a rule, if they change trends, they will get to them. Now, a way to see measured moves easier, because these are noisy, very noisy charts, is to look at like a 30 range, to give an example. Let me just go to, for instance, let me get a 30 range oil chart real quick. I thought I had one. Bear with me a second, we'll have one. I'm going to go to 30 range bar. And personally, on a 30 range bar, I like to go about 25 or 30 days. Depends on the speed of your computer and everything, but we don't put a lot of colors on this or anything. Okay, so if you want to draw measured moves from here, to give an example, and this is a lot easier to draw the larger ones, but notice how you can draw the smaller ones like I did. For instance, you see a little thrust, you get a pullback, you know where it's going to go. Okay, that's called a measured move. Here's a measured move right here, to give an example. Okay, don't go back like 5 days or something like that, because that's going to be just not realistic. This measured move is realistic. See this 1, 2, 3, draw a measured move, and you'll find that it went through it. But frankly, sometimes who really cares? Because when you draw this right here, see, they took it out and they came back and kissed it. So that was a good measured move. When you draw it like that, I like to look at 1, 2, 3, measured move. Here's another one right here. Let's just draw it. See, if you draw from here to here to here, you can see where this should head. It may have already hit that. We'll find out. Come on. Measured move. Come on. Draw. There you go. See, it's already hit it. So see how perfect that measured move is, and how they're hesitating there? See how the body of the candle actually hit it and wicked it a little bit? How far left should you go, Mass? Well, what I would recommend is don't really go over a day unless you want to see the real ultimate move, which will happen like sometime this week, to give an example, but not today. Like here's an example. Okay, you had a low, high, a little bit lower low. So it took out the high. So I would say your next measured move for a real big move would be this: 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5, maybe even 6, 7. That's a little day change. So I would say on a measured move like this, I like to go with threes though. I don't like fives and all that. But let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is right there and right there. And see, it took it out. That's pretty much where I had my measured move this morning, and I left some on the table on it. But frankly, if it hits these measured moves, I don't care. Because this one might have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's draw it and see where it goes. And it may be where it's at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere right through there, probably. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5. Okay. See, it's really, really close to it on a true measured move like that, even. Because, see, markets actually do this a lot of times. They go 1, they go 2, they go 3, and that's a measured move, okay? But in really moving markets, they will do lots of times 4 and then 5. And you can draw measured moves off of those also. I don't really care about that a lot of times because, frankly, if you could make, like we did today, several of our traders did even better than, by far as that goes. I talked to several of them that did phenomenal on oil today. But I showed mine. I was up $1,840. That's an hour. That's an hour's trading. That's all it was. So, don't be ashamed if you get out, because you'll be more ashamed of yourself if you don't get out. Because what happens a lot of times, they'll go back up. This doesn't look like a lot of movement. Do you remember I actually called a long there? Now this goes to our next point, and that's called line in the sand long short. Because this little trade right here that was called live, that doesn't look like much, but those are 30 tick bars. That's a 100 tick move. Okay, so let me show it to you. And we'll get actual oil chart instead. Because line in the sand can make you a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. Just think, you were watching this thing just going down, 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 down. And then what does it do? It makes a little rollover like that. And then what you're going to look for is you're going to look for when it gives up the ghost, okay? Like, see, you've got a low here, a high here, and still a lower low, okay? So this is actually called your line in the sand. Now, we want to actually make a potential trader that will actually take this trade without this being a lightning 3. Because to me, I'd take that trade in a heartbeat, and I even called it this morning, on that trade. So this is called a line in the sand, and what you're looking for on a line in the sand type trade is an exhaustion. This literally went like this. It went thrust down. It did a little retrace, and it made one last gasp. But it takes a while, and it gives you like a lightning 3. And lightning 3 is based on 4 range, 15 swing strength. So see, that's a low, that's a high, that's a lower low. So what is the definition of a trend change? A low, a high, higher low, and higher high. Or a break of the swing on the left. Okay, the swing on the left at that time was right there. Okay, so when this does this right here, and I mentioned even boxing it in because it's breaking this right here, because no matter if this was a 250 tick drop, it doesn't matter because they will V shape them a lot of times. And that little trade went up nicely. Okay, and you can see that in time to take it because you're drawing what we call line in the sand long short on your charts. Okay. Now, notice that all it was a retracement from about through here at the time. You know, this is your first thrust retrace. So that's where I called the trade. Remember this morning? We actually got that trade. I even showed I was in it. I missed it here, and I even said, well, doggone it, I missed that one. But it came back and gave another opportunity. And my mama didn't raise no fool. She raised a fairly astute trader. She didn't know I was going to be a trader at the time, though. But anyway, see how that just kissed that area right there and just rolled over? Take those trades in a heartbeat, because that was stair stepping down. It was a beautiful, beautiful trade. Okay. Matt said that predictor. Well, yeah, that's another thing too. But see, they break predictors quite often. Now, why was this not a line in the sand here? Anybody? Look left on the chart and you'll see why. There's no swings. There's no lightning. It's just heading down. I mean, 4-range charts, there's a little bit of lightning, but it's pretty subdued. See there? That's your only swing right there on the left side of the chart. So did it take it out or did it kiss it and roll? We also had that line drawn on the chart and we shorted that. Our room did, I didn't. Okay. Now, would that make that a line in the sand at this point? Yes, but you also got to look at this, and that is, when do they make a low, a high, a lower low, and then finally take out that swing? Okay. And that's that trade right there. Okay. Line in the sand, long, short, you got to really see, you know, what's actually going on. And by the way, if you take one before it takes out a swing, like, see, this was not one over here. See, it never took out that left swing. This is the left swing and it took it out. Everybody sees that, right? Notice if I draw a line across this part right here, it just kissed it. See there? Kissed and rolled. Now, what if it would have done this? Thrust, retrace, just pretend none of this happened. Let's just block this all out. Let's say this didn't happen, any of this, okay? And then it started doing this. Where would your line in the sand, long, short be to go long? At that line. See? Because it wouldn't have been still heading down. But notice on the left side of the chart, it still was. Okay? Over here, it was not. Low, high, lower low, broke it. Now, do you have to get in it the very second it breaks? No, because if it's going to be a good 10-tick trade, you can box it in. And this is what we did in the room. We said, okay, right across there, take that trade and don't let it go back below that, right there, right where that line was drawn, and did it. And if you think about that, that's a line in the sand, long, short. If you got in at like 76, 78, let's just say you got in at 80, who cares? That went all the way up to 31, and if you took it out at line 6, that was actually, 81, and you took it out at like 19, that's a 40-tick trade. You can't ever disparage getting a good 40-tick trade like that. Now, here's one area that I don't agree with Apex's rules, okay? Because let's say that you had been short from here and you were holding this trade, seeing if it would hit its head here, for instance, you know, and you know, you see what it did do, but what if it would have hit its head right here instead? What if you stayed short? And then you said, whoa, wait a minute, Gary's calling a long here. I better flip this trade. So if you think about that, and that's one area that they're talking about doing away with that rule. What they don't want is they don't want gamblers, but that's not a gambling trade. That is a legitimate trend change type trade for a potential first leg of an Elliott, for instance. And it was a good 40-tick trade. Okay? So line in the sands can be super, super good for your account. Let's see, gold and then just jumps in and out with a micro to get the day traders required. Yeah, they don't want you to do that either. What they're saying also in one of the rules, we'll go over one of them, is they don't want you to hit a payout period, or like let's say that you football and cowboy and get $5,000, and then for 7, 8 more days after that, 9 days after that, you just go in and out with micros so you can get that payday. I personally don't see anything wrong with that if you traded right on the $5,000 day and you traded right on the micro days. But that's their bailiwick, that's their company. I personally definitely don't see anything wrong with it myself. To me, if they get a trader that can stay profitable every day with the kind of movement that these markets make, the quickness, the severity of moves and everything, they ought to just stand back and go, that's great trading, guys. They're actually, kind of looking for some of the people that go in one contract and just kind of hold it, and maybe they're down 500 for a day, or 1,000 or whatever, but then the next day they're up a little bit. But let's see, I think you should consult them, Mindy. Well, I did do their survey. They don't ask for your name or anything like that on their survey, though, so they don't know it's me. They know it's this computer is all. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I've showed measured moves, and keep in mind, when you think about a measured move, they will go, like a big measured move, like a good move and a good pullback, and then get that measured move. But they will also do these little bitty, nice, let's say you get a little pop like that, and you pull back, and you say, wow, that's a higher low. I'm going to take that trade. Well, you can kind of tell you're going to go from there and then go a little higher, like just maybe about right there. So that kind of tells you where your money's going to be. And if that's 10 ticks, then I'm all for it. These are a lot better, obviously, like that one I showed you on the YM. I like the bigger ones because when you get those measured moves, you can pretty much tell. Let's say if you got in at not 69, 70 area, and by looking at this, that it's going to as high as 73, and you're getting in under 76. That's an 80 tick move, and that's never anything to sneeze at. So these are the best measured moves: is your good thrust, your good retrace, and another thrust. If you're more of a scalper, you want to kind of look at the smaller measured moves. But always keep in mind there's smaller measured move inside the bigger measured moves. And if you trade that way, you're going to do pretty good. Because what are we looking for when we get into a phantom, to give an example? We're looking for a higher low than where the first thrust was. As a rule, now keep in mind when they're moving a market like this, first time into phantom might not be as good of an idea, but that one even paid off. That's a 10 tick trade. First time after phantom if you got out of it. But keep in mind that you also want to look at the overall trend too. Okay, the overall trend on crude oil today was down. Doesn't mean you can't take these breakout trades, though, these potential trend trades. I called that trade in the room. And it's not an after type trade either, like, well, that was a great trade when you saw it after. No, we actually were drawing it right here saying, whoa, wait a minute, box this puppy in. And if it goes up through that box, don't let it go back down through it. And it went up through it and kept on trucking. Can you go over when you knew that phantom was not a phantom this morning? Oh, you're talking about up here. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Let me just show you some of that. Because keep in mind, again, just like I teach in a lot of webinars, we only trade from about 7:30-ish, 7:35 or so, something like that, until 10 o'clock. So this is our window of opportunity, just right through there, okay? So this morning when I opened the room, okay, first off, this was actually getting just a little bit higher high than right here, but I even mentioned it's just not taking out that 15. So had a line drawn on the chart, because you can see where the line in the sand long short is on this chart before this ever happened. Okay, so you're looking at this and you're saying, well, wait a minute. Okay, Gary's opening the room right about through here. Now, where's your line in the sand long short on this chart? Anybody? Low, high, higher low, higher high, just barely, but your line in the sand long short is right there, 85, 86 area. And that's where I had that drawn this morning. Okay. So when you see this break that, and then it doesn't go ahead and do a phantom. Now keep in mind that a first time into phantom, I also mentioned in the room, I remember it, and I know a lot of people recorded it, because I said, they had just barely changed that trend, and they didn't take out that top, so be careful. So a lot of our people shorted 86. Okay. Now, if you're not that kind of a trader, what you want to do, why is that the line in the sand, Janetta? I'll show you. Let me just draw it real quick. If you look at a thrust like this and a retrace, and this had already happened before we opened the room. See, like so. So that's actually a higher high than that is. So that's a potential trend change when that breaks. Remember the rule on that? You got a high, you got a low, you got a lower high, then what would it take to actually break and head down is when it takes out that right there. So if this had been heading up and it did this, that would be a potential trend change. Object trader wouldn't have taken that phantom, correct? This one here, no, because the bar never went up. Right. Now, I did say to box this though, remember? Because we box our phantoms. This your phantom area right here. So you could have even shorted that and try to get down to here. But your safest trade is a thrust retrace, okay? And you should be able to tell about where it's heading even on a shorter measured move and take some profit. So to give an example, this actually went down a little bit. And do you remember this trade that I called in the room? We actually went right up to here and got that mid-band trade right there. Okay. This type of trade right here, if it doesn't go up and check where it broke down, you can still take that trade, because this was screaming. See that little dot went green, white. That little dot went white. We boxed this trade in here. Remember, I missed the first one, but it's the same box. If you just expand that box out, and I saw it and I said, okay, then I'm going to take that on this bar. And we actually nailed that trade and got that beautiful puppy all the way down. How to take the ghost area again, I'm not following on that. Scott showed the setting again, how to take the ghost area. You mean the measured move? Yeah, and here's another thing too, by the way. Now, what I like to personally do, if I use Object Trader on these mid-band trades, one thing that we have found out is if they actually stair-step that mid-band, you can literally for a few minutes put your stop all the way up here. Now, I wouldn't leave it there, but because if this was to do this, see, this is your line in the sand long short right across there. So if they were to break that and kiss it and head up, then obviously I wouldn't leave my stop here, because that would be a trend change. See what I mean? That literally was your line in the sand long short right there. Now, if they kiss them and roll, that's great. But what you don't want them to do, and keep in mind when they have dropped like a stone, this hasn't dropped like a stone, so this isn't breaking the line in the sand and then heading up. This one, however, was, because the silly thing had dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped, and then you got this move right here. that's when they've just exhausted it. This is a safe place to take this. You know, remember I showed this. This is not a change of trend right here. You got your swing right there. And that's a very minor swing too, so I don't consider that to be much of a swing. It's just 2 bars is all it is. Okay? Anybody have any questions on some of this thus far? Measured moves will make a big difference in trading. Let me just show you a few of them. I just see them on the charts just time and time again. And will they always hit them exactly? No, not necessarily. Here's one that didn't quite hit it. That's a 1, 2, 3 area. And if you draw your measured move from here to here to here, it didn't hit it. They don't always hit them. But what do we do then? We use like line 6 to get out of the trade. I wasn't up at 2:40 in the morning, but that was a measured move. It just never got it. That's because oil was actually heading down instead of up. But keep in mind, if you draw any kind of measured moves, you've also got to look to the left to trade the right. Okay, let's just pretend you were up at 2:50 in the morning and you took this mid-band trade. Well, first off, if you were to take the measured move, you got to also see, well, what if they don't take out your resistance right there? Right, that would be one of your first targets. They took it out. Your next target, if you look to the left to trade the right, it's kind of right through here and here. There's a swing right there, and there's a swing right there, and it looks like they just hit it and rolled over. So you got to always look left to trade the right. If they don't take out these swings, you got to get out of them, probably right through there. And we also take them out on trend line breaks too. That's kind of a sloppy trend line, but even if you got out right through there, you'd be better off than, holding it forever. Let's see, do you think your programmer can build an indicator to draw long short lines, Kevin? Maybe. One thing that I'm working on right now that I think y'all will like is we've already got a zone indicator, which I haven't let go yet, because what he's doing with our zone indicator, we're going to build this kind of sophisticated. I want to put a component of volume in it. I've never been much into volume, but it is what it is. It definitely can keep you on the right side of the trade. But what we plan on doing is not only keeping like a bar type selection for your higher time frame, I want to also do a swing frame with volume and everything, because by doing a swing, for instance, if you get, like, let's say that you get a swing type move, to give an example, and the volume is, high to the upside, that type of thing. I want to have it actually draw the zone, but then I want it to actually do something. Well, I'll show you actually. Let me see if I've got it on my Skype at all. I might maybe on my phone. I'm trying to remember where I put that. I think it's on my phone. If you got a minute, I can send it to my Skype though, because I've got it. Because I sent it to the programmer. I think it's on the other phone though. I got 2 cell phones because one's for the business and one's personal. Let me get into it real quick. Yeah, here it is right here. I'll send this to my Skype and I'll show it to you. Well, Linda's not on this Skype. Let me see. Let me send it to messages instead. Let me send it to Linda's. And then see if I can actually get it out of camera to send it like to me, to give an example. think Pat's on my Skype here, so let me see if I can actually get it to him just real quick, because then I'll have it on mine. I may not be able to do this. I was thinking I could, but confusing myself some. I'll just draw it on the chart instead. If what I'm trying to do with this, and I think you'll like it, because that's terrible on the lightning right now. Let me get rid of this lightning so I can show it to you. Let's say, for instance, let's just say this was a swing that it draws, okay, and it draws across, say, there or something like that. I want this to have a volume content of some kind over, that's actually flashing over here, that will actually show, how much volume that's heading to the upside and how much volume is heading to the downside, like at the bottom of that region. And it'll be like percentage, something like that, so we don't have to draw it across the whole thing. But like, let's say the volume is really to the downside instead of to the upside, because at the time you don't know if that's changing trends because it's trying. Okay, but let's say the volume's pretty much red down here, then you box it and you short it. Okay, so that's coming, and I think it'll be something that we'll all like. Let's see, is the video he described flipping as one who makes the evaluation goal and then just jumps in and out with a micro? I'm not sure on that, Kenneth. I'll be able to let you know if they're really watching. I can tell you this, that I do flip occasionally, and if I'm flipping more than they say, they may warn me, because I just requested a payout on Saturday night, and right now it's just saying it's active. That's all it's saying. But they paid out like 1,000 as of this afternoon, so I have no idea how many payouts they have. Probably quite a few. But I can tell you this, the way we scalp and everything, we've got to have the ability. For instance, what if you at 5 o'clock had gone long right across here, just simply because you saw a little low, high, higher, low, and let's say you box that in and you got 20 ticks or so, but if it takes this out right here, you want to flip it. You should be able to do that. Sorry about that. Charts were frozen for just a second. But see what I'm getting at? Let's say you're a very fast scalping type trader and you saw this was getting higher lows right there, just right after 5 o'clock, and you decided, hey, I think it'll at least go up here or maybe here. So what if you took it long? It didn't take out this swing. So then what if you decided to flip it if it takes out that swing? See what I mean? So I think you should have that ability myself. Because now, would I trade this long here? Probably not. I'd more likely short this because it's a lower high. But there are scalpers that would scalp that long. And if I was just wanting a quick $100, I might do it. Because you can clearly see that it's stair stepping with a little bit higher lows, and it took out a little micro swing. Okay. But see how these measured moves really work, though? Let me just draw some for you just to show you. If you'll start drawing on your charts, you'll see them, because you can see them over and over and over. Measured move. It took it out a little bit. Who cares? That's a measured move. You draw on your charts. Where's your next measured move? If this breaks down, you can already tell. See, I would be saying, okay, high, low, lower, high. Didn't even take out this, so wouldn't you say a measured move right now would be like this? Thrust, retrace, and thrust, and just barely take out that low. Something like that. Now, what if it does a bigger measured move? Well, go back a little bit and see where some moves. It's kind of sloppy, but let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty good, and that's a little higher low. So now you go 1, 2, 3. So here's your measured move. If they decide to take it down much further, and see it's not much lower than that. So that's 2 measured moves right there. Where's your line in the sand long short on this chart right now? Well, if it doesn't take out this low, it's right there. So you could be ready, and if you draw it there and you got another one here at 17 on the left, I'd say your line in the sand's right there instead. See what I mean? Always, if it's that close, don't fall for them just barely checking that and then rolling over. It's got to take out the left side of the chart. Okay, this is the right side of the chart. That's the left side of the chart. Everybody see that? So basically, we talked about measured moves, line in the sand, and you can clearly draw at any given moment your line in the sand, long short on a chart. I can take any chart and tell you where your line in the sand, long short is. And you got to also be aware, even with measured moves, you got to draw them both ways, because there's going to be times that, you know, this might not do a thrust, retrace, thrust. It looks like it's rolling over, and it's even a red background and everything. But if this was to do a measured move up, if it was to break here, you could clearly see that it would give you a 10-tick trade if they broke it. See your high, so far your low, it'd get up to here. That would be enough to box in if they decided to take that to get 10 ticks. Now, I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm just drawing measured moves both ways. See what I mean? I don't want to get it confusing at all, because, you know, the whole thing is, again, as traders, we're scalpers, and we're looking for a thrust, a pullback, and a measured move so we can get our profit. Okay? Let's see. Scott says gold has been moving a lot more. Well, gold is moving. Let's look at it. I'll show you some measured moves on it too. See, here's an example right here. Where's your measured move on this side of the chart right now? Thrust, retrace, thrust. So if they take out this high, which they did a little bit, this would be your measured move right here. And you just simply draw on your chart where it ends. That's how to draw them. Where's your line in the sand long short on this chart? What if gold decides to head down instead of up? Your line in the sand long short's right there. So let's do a couple of scenarios. It's either going to hold a higher low than this and head up like so, stair step. It may take a while, it may take half the night, you don't know. Or it's going to break the line in the sand long short, kiss it, hold it, and roll. That's the type of moves that are setting up right as we speak right now on gold. Barely took out the top. They're checking that swing right there. Okay, let's see if it holds. Let's go ahead and look at it. It's live stuff, so let's look at it. See, that's a true swing. High, low, higher, high, ABC even, little ABC. So they're trying to check it. This is your true line in the sand long short. If they get a higher low here than here, they should head it up. But if they take this out, they're not going to head it up. Now, they could break a little bit and do a phantom. So the key to it is knowing when are you going to actually get in the trade. Well, technically, it should always be if it breaks, kisses, and rolls. And hopefully, if it breaks enough to actually change our trend. And to do that, it's going to have to literally take out this area right here. But that's actually a legitimate mid-band trade. I wouldn't touch it this time of night myself because it's too slow, but it is a mid-band trade. And you do know where the measured move's going. Also look to the left to trade the right though. That's a lower high than that, so where's your measured move down? It would be like this. If this is a new lower high, then guess what? They're going to head down instead, and they're going to check something like that. See how that works? So you've got two scenarios on here. It's either going to break and head up and kiss this, or it's going to break and head down and kiss this. And it really has no other choice than that, because a true measured move is going to be this thrust, this retrace, and this thrust, or this thrust, this retrace, and this thrust. And until it breaks this, you don't know for sure. But it is kind of trying to check micro right here on the left, even as we speak. I'll leave this chart. I'm trying to think. Let's see. This is not my regular workspace, though. I'll save it, though, right now as it's untitled, but we'll be able to see it in the morning. I saved it with those boxes on it. Let's see what it does by morning and see if I'm not right. Okay, Maz, what was your question? Another one? Let me see here real quick. Bear with me a second. Well, Mindy, on your question, that's a good question. Mindy's asking, if you close a trade and then go the other direction, would that be considered a flip? I would hope not, because I'm not sure that they're talking about that as much as, now they have said, though, you can add as many contracts to a winning trade as you want to, but you can't add but one time to a losing trade. I don't personally like that, because here's a reason for that. What if you had a trade like this at mid-band, okay, and you've got a Fibonacci on that thing, and it bounced right on that 38? I wouldn't be at all against buying another one at 50. You see what I mean? But they really don't want you to do that because you're adding to a loser. But how many times have you seen it bounce off a 38, barely take out the high, come down at a 50, and then bounce and go the full direction? And then your measured move would be thrust, retrace, thrust. See, because you don't know if this can be your new high, low, higher, high yet, because that just barely took out that top. I mean, that's not much of a taken out top. See what I mean? See, Kenneth, you have a question? Let's see, that is what he said in his video. So when he was saying flipping, he was not talking about, well, he does talk about dollar cost averaging, though, right? Because dollar cost averaging would be adding to a loser in hopes that it'll go your direction. But let me ask you a question. We've got a stair-stepping mid-band. All we're doing right now is getting some retracements. We don't really have till it breaks this area to really look to go short. See what I mean? So to me, there's nothing wrong with trying to see if this is going to do a great thrust, retrace, and another thrust. Now, I think when they're talking about, like dollar cost averaging would be like, let's say that you happen to get in this with two contracts and it breaks here and you add two more here, that's probably okay with them. But to go, well, I'm going to go 2 here and 15 here, and then it just keeps dropping on you. That's what they don't want. But there's sometimes no way around that, because I see this myself as being a first time into Phantom after a trend change. And the way I trade it nowadays, though, is pretty much, if I got in this, see, I've just called this trade. If, it didn't take out the low, that's a little bit higher low, right? So if you actually took this trade here, then don't let it go below that line, and then you could always try a Phantom, but you'd be closing out of this trade. Now, there's a lot of our traders that will actually take this trade, keeping in mind that this is the line in the sand long short, because it did have a high and a little bit higher high. Barely higher high, but still a line in the sand. That's a higher low. See, and that trade's working out. How many of you took it? Don't take it this time of night. Trade it in sim if you want to. Okay, because what they're trying to do is they're trying their dead level best to check that swing right there where that white dot is. If they get a higher low, where's your measured move on this chart right now? Well, let's look at it. Little measured move, thrust, retrace. If that's your new higher low, we don't know yet, but they're barely going up above that on that little measured move. Okay. Now, keep it in mind though. Now watch and see if it does. We'll stick around just a couple of more minutes. And if this bar goes down, we'll just close it out. But this is kind of telling you where they're trying to do a little thrust retrace with a higher low. Right there. And see, that's a decent little trade. Now, is it 10 ticks yet? Well, if you got it at mid-band, you're at 23.77 and you just hit 10 ticks. See there? So that's a way to do measured moves. Now, what if it decides to do this measured move? Thrust, retrace, thrust. Then you draw it. I missed that by 1 tick, so we'll bring it down. Oh, well, we can move it. Okay. So that's your target. See there? So you got a little measured move, you already got it. You got a little bit bigger measured move, you haven't got that yet. But if you took that trade, and that was up to you, I don't trade this time of night, but it's up to you. If you took it, you got 10 ticks. And with one contract, that's a $100 bill. And see, that's live data, that's coming in right there. Okay? So just learn to really keep up and draw those measured moves because they make a world of difference. See there where I drew that? You actually broke and rolled over. And I said this was a lower high, so you would have boxed this in right across this area if you'd have seen it, that is, and you'd be short. It didn't change trends, but you've always got to be ready for it to change trends. That's why I draw on my charts. Let's see, have you had anyone who loads OT and OT alerts? Sometimes there and other times it's not. Very frustrating. So you're saying the alerts disappears? I have not seen that, Kenneth, but if it does, just load your template again, like that, and then reload OT. The alerts at the top you're talking about right there, right? That disappears. Send me your log on that and we'll take a look at it. I have not had that happen. But I never say never because believe me, in computers, I was helping. You remember the gentleman I was helping earlier that I actually did a team viewer while I was still in the room and everything? Jeff? He's not in the webinar right now, but he had the strangest thing happen. I couldn't get out of the trade. He couldn't get out of the trade. He was in micro, so he wasn't in bad shape. He was down like maybe $30. But then all of a sudden, it showed an error that the account wasn't active or valid. And when I went to his orders, it showed an Apex account -01. We went to his dashboard on Apex and he was on -03. He had actually reset twice. And so his account was actually -03. And all of a sudden, and also this, when it showed -01, it was showing his account was at $24,998. But then when it got its glitch finished, his account was not traded at all today, and it was at a $50,000 account, which is what it was. So that's weird. I guess he must have bought 25 at one time. I don't know. But that was one of the strangest things I've seen. But you want to know a real quick stranger thing? Y'all ever seen the movie Adjustment Bureau? Where they have that team with Matt Damon that go around and fix things that get in the wrong place and things like that. It's kind of a squirrely movie. We had something very strange happen. Okay, we got 3 folders from our oral surgeon that's going to do our teeth. And Linda and I both saw them on the counter. They even had my blood pressure charts and everything. And then the very next morning we got up and we couldn't find those folders. And did you know, to this day, we literally tore this house apart and have not found those folders. We had to have them make new folders for us. Those folders are not in this house. It's weird. It's like we went into a time machine or something. That's strange. Yeah, really weird. So anyway, that's just weird stuff. But that's what Jeff's was doing, though. It was actually trading on account that he didn't even have, and he didn't even initiate the trade. And it was trading micros, which he didn't tell it to trade micros. So I have no idea what kind of glitch he got. But Apex did say on a video I was watching earlier that they are taking care of a lot of the PAs that they haven't taken care of yet, because Rhythmic has been glitching for the last week. And if people have been losing PA accounts, and evaluation accounts, they're trying to make it all right. Okay? Everyone, have a great, blessed rest of your evening. I hope this helped you a little bit. Keep in mind that measured moves aren't a holy grail or anything like that, but they will help you to make more money when you're trading, because you know where the trade is trying to go. Does it mean it'll always get there? As a rule, it'll finally get there. But if it doesn't, just like, for instance, that YM I showed on Friday, it went through it by about 7 or 8 ticks. And that's just extra money for you. But take your money at these measured moves and you'll be surprised. We've already drawn one on here. Where's this one going? Well, now it's got another one right here, thrust, retrace, thrust. Let's see where it's going real quick, and then we'll wrap. Okay, so far, see, you've got a thrust, retrace, and it's trying to roll over. So let's see where our measured move's showing that we're trying to go. Right down there. That's if they don't start stair-stepping this thing, okay, because that got a higher low. So where's the measured move to the upside if they decide to break up? You just draw it. Where's your line in the sand long shorts? Right here where I'm putting my cursor. That's where they'd head if they break to the upside a little bit. They might test that again. See how that works? Let's see. You retyped the question, Maz. Let me see where it. My question is boxing. What constitutes 2 candles? Must they be full candles? Well, boxing with Object Trader is actually boxing 2 fully closed candles. So if you go to Object Trader, I don't know why that started doing that setup there. Anyway, we'll go to Object Trader. Take it off and put it back on so it'll be there. All right, and you go to your object types, auto region close, you'll notice that it draws on the last 2 fully closed candles. Let me show you this. Wow, I got something in my eye just a second. Wow, I don't know what that was. Salt or something. Whoa. Okay, so anyway, let's see. Right here, you've got 2 fully closed bars. And that's a little off because that box should be technically right there, in my opinion. But we drew it before the bar closed, so let's see where it draws if that bar will close. Give it just a minute. And hopefully my eye won't fall out here. Wow, I don't know what I got. I touched my eye with my finger and it must have had salt on it. Whoa. Yeah, see, that's 2 fully formed candles right there. So that's your box right there. Okay, so that's an actual box with a 2 candle. And keep in mind that 2 candles can be anywhere from 5 ticks like this one is to about 9 ticks. Because a lot of times candles form beside each other. But there are times that one will form and another one will form right on top of it. And with a tick slippage, that'll be 9 ticks. I like the smaller boxes like that. See, so if you were going to trade this, you could pretty much just hit the short button but you'd have to protect your stop too, because this did not take out the low. Okay, so that's a lesson tonight on measured moves and line in the sand and potential trend changes. And drawing your charts, matter of fact, right now, potential trend change on crude oil is right there. If it takes out these lows, where will it be? It'll be right here. If it takes out these lows. See, you're always changing your line in the sand long short. This is not your line in the sand long short, except for the fact if this gets a higher low than this down here and they break this, that is a potential trend change if it did a 1, 2, 3. See, but your conservative one is still up here. And believe me, if they break this and come back and kiss it, that would be a real trend change. I just called that trade if you wanted it. See how that's a bigger box. Notice that? See, that's a 9-tick box. But it always draws on the last 2 fully formed candles, and that's a typical example of showing you a big box and a small box. Okay? And I don't like big boxes like that. I like those little small ones like that, where it just made the smaller one. Okay? Everybody have a great rest of your evening. I hope I answered everybody's questions good. If not, we'll be in the room in the morning. We'll trade these things for real. And if I'm not reading the questions right, it's because one of my eyes is watering like crazy. I had, I know what it was. I had jalapenos on my hot dog, and I think I got it in my eye. All right. That sounds like a personal problem. Okay, let's see. Sometimes that works, but sometimes I have to start over. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. If that doesn't, let me talk to the program and see if there's any reason that could possibly be going away. One thing we might do, Kenneth, is to reinstall your Ninja and see if that would fix it, because that is strange. Let's see, does this apply when we draw a box also 2 full candles? Well, see, here's another box right here, and see, that's almost a 9-tick box too. I don't like bigger boxes like that. I like to get in these little boxes where you get a candle up, candle down, box it. But not a candle down, and box it. Those are too big. Oh, when you draw it? Well, actually, where I was calling that trade just a minute ago was right through there. It'd pretty much be in that trade right there on that bar, and you'd be protecting it just in case it goes back above that. Okay? All right. Real quick, also I wanted to mention something too. Maz brought up something to me that I didn't realize might have sounded like that. We did a Traders Corner webinar, but we actually did it off of their list. They invited us to be a speaker, me to be a speaker at an event, but it had nothing to do with, basically they sent out to a bunch of their traders and I was a speaker. And it was nothing really, it was just showing our stuff. It wasn't teaching them how to trade or anything. It was really just showing them what we have and how it could be very advantageous to them to be a part of us. And I invited them to take a trial. Rick, yeah, normally I don't this time of night, but I do realize that, yeah, go ahead and give me a call right away with a team viewer, okay? And we'll see everybody else in the morning. Thanks very much for coming. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Yeah, Rick, go ahead and give me a call right now with a team viewer, or whenever you get that team viewer in the next couple of minutes. Okay, thanks. Good night, everyone.